All right, what's up everyone? I'm in here playing in the garage. I got a camera sitting here and I figure why don't I just turn it on, no cameraman, just me hanging out, playing with some audio stuff. The only thing that stinks is in this video, like I would normally use different music to play with stuff, but I just found some crappy duty-free, or I guess it's not duty-free, whatever it's called, copyright-free junk that I found on YouTube that I'll play. Bluetooth, which isn't preferred here, but you'll find that it's kind of hard to tell the difference between Bluetooth and FLAC, or native high-res files, or even MQA or something like that. But I figured I'd just set the camera up and we can do a little hang sesh here while I play with some different configurations, try to formulate. Really, what I'm doing here is I'm having a blast playing with all this cool stuff, and then the justification for me to waste all this time and money buying all this and playing with it is that eventually I can build some systems and sell some of it to help offset some of the costs of doing some of this nonsense that I'm playing with. But that's part of the deal. So I set this up last night. I was going to set the camera up, and I just didn't feel like doing it. And so I set this up last night and didn't do like an unboxing thing here. I just set it up late in the evening before I went to the gym, and wanted to play with this setup. So I think in the garage, I think that at least this is what I want. I want simple. And so I want to basically use my phone to stream music in as efficient and as of high quality as possible. And then there are times where I'll want to play the audio from my TV, to the speakers as well. And although in certain garages, like actually in my garage at my house that's like nearly 40 feet wide, I probably would be better off with surround, but I kind of messed it up. I was gonna run some wires, but they insulated the whole darn attic, and so now I bought all the fish stuff, and I was gonna set up full 7-channel Dolby Atmos in the garage to get better dispersion of sound. But I decided to just leave it 2-channel because I'm probably not going to be in that house for very long. So that project is rounding out, so I think I'm done. So one of the biggest mistakes I made in that garage, I pre-wired it. It just wasn't a thing. I don't know why I didn't think of this. It should have been such a simple thing. I like to have my speakers on the countertop. Or, depending on how your garage is set up, like in this garage, I like to have my speakers up on the cabinets, on top of the cabinet. So it's either countertop or upper cabinet. I guess it could be wall mounted as well. But there are going to be preferences on what your garage looks like and how it's set up and where the speakers go. I think the common theme here is that no matter what you do, we're always going to be making some compromises. It's the garage. We're doing audio in the garage. I get all the naysaying and all this, well, it's a terrible thing, why would you waste any money? And that's why we're going to have solutions that aren't a lot of money. If you don't think that it's a good place, I bet you what happens is that if you do have the funds to do great, or great like we have up here, and you just don't believe that the garage is a great place for good quality audio equipment, buy some cheap ones, set it up the way I'm suggesting. It's fun. I think that's the key thing here, is to accept the fact that we're doing audio in the garage because it's frickin' fun, and it's a great place to turn some music on. And I find that when I have a podcast, music, I'm watching some show on Netflix or something like that, when I have the option to watch these different things or listen to these different things, it makes whatever project I'm working on in the garage, which a lot of times isn't enjoyable, a much more enjoyable time. Shoot, if I didn't have a camera, I would have audio on 24/7 in the garage, but I've got the darn camera on all the time, and of course we'd get copyright protected. So I think the way that the systems that we're going to create, so we're going to focus on 2-channel and so 2.1. So we're going to focus on 2-channel first, and then I'll have a few surround solutions. But we'll have single wireless speaker, stereo wireless speakers. We'll have stereo passive speakers, meaning you need some sort of amplifier. And then we'll have stereo studio monitors. And then we can talk multiple channel, like if you had a really big garage, we could do distributed audio throughout. If you had issues with humidity and things like that, we can do some outdoor IP65 or IP57 rated speakers that are somewhat waterproof or at least water resistant. We can talk about if you have space constraints, we can talk about in-wall subwoofers, in-wall speakers, in-ceiling speakers, and everything in between. And so I'm going to chase this. I probably would be smart if I just came out with one system and had 3 different price tiers, but I feel like it's kind of boring for me. I want to have multiple options. So what I'm going to focus on is not confusing you with too many options, and we're going to have these 4 or 5 different system types. Again, single Bluetooth speaker like a Dynaudio Music, single speaker, wireless, whatever. We'll have also, I'll put into that category, sound bar, so the ability for you to just put a sound bar below the display. And then the sound bar would have a subwoofer option. So again, number 1 would be sound bar, single speaker, wireless, simple, generally inexpensive, and then we'll have good, better, best in that. That's step 1. Step 2 would be wireless stereo pair with the add-on for a subwoofer. So we'll work on that. I already have that figured out. And then option 3 would be passive speakers and an amplifier. And then option 4, I think that's 4, would be studio monitors. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit what I found thus far, it's not what I've found, what I've bought and listened to and really liked. And then you can take it for what it's worth in the future. So I'm slowly working on getting this stuff in the store. First, negotiating relationships with NAD, Dynaudio, Bluesound, OSD Audio, Metra. Who else have I? Bluesound, NAD, PSB speakers. And so I've set up relationships with some of the manufacturers that I have a real interest in the product. And then what I've been doing is buying the whole catalog, playing with the catalog, and then we'll narrow that down to create some systems. So anyway, what I have set up here is, so this would be the passive setup. I'm going to kind of play with the difference here. And so this is a $1,450 NAD. This is what they call a hybrid digital DAC / amplifier. So this is a C368. It's $1,450 is what this thing costs. It's this one's rated at 80 watts per channel, which is a bit ridiculous. This thing does significantly more. Let me see, let me make sure. I think this one was 80 watts, and then the next one is 150. Let me just look here. Set this on top here. NAD. Told you this is going to be more of a hang. I'm just going to tell you, as if you were hanging out here, I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking. So I just found this, they just added this. So there's a new M10. So in hierarchy, it goes M33. So this is in a stereo, and I'll turn this around and show you in a minute, but a stereo amplifier with some sort of digital connectivity via either the BlueOS app or through like Google Connect or something, like Google Home, Google Connect, or I guess it'd be Chromecast, they call it, or some Bluetooth connectivity. And I think that the requisite for me with putting a black box somewhere is that I don't want to be stuck with Bluetooth only. If I'm going to be stuck with Bluetooth only, then I'm going to just go to a set of active speakers that already have an amplifier built in. And so the big difference, if you're not aware, the big difference is if you take your phone out and you connect your phone, let's say to your car. You get in your car, you get in your Porsche, your BMW, you get in your car and you connect your phone, it connects via Bluetooth. If it's Apple, it's going to be an AAC, Apple Audio Codec connection, which is going to be 16-bit, 44.1 kilohertz, which is what it probably is or should be. And so there's going to be some compression, especially if you're listening to high-res streaming on Spotify, or if you're listening to something like Master Quality Audio, MQA, or if you're listening to Apple Lossless. It's going to down convert to lower resolution for Bluetooth. And so the Bluetooth codec is going to hurt your quality. If you're doing Android, it's probably connecting via aptX, aptX, and I think there's aptX HD as well. But again, your general Bluetooth connection to your phone, connecting to your car, the way it works is that when I take my phone and I connect to any device with Bluetooth, I'm going to get lower quality audio. Now, I've been listening to my fancy studio monitors on Bluetooth only, Apple AAC connected. It's freaking fantastic. I mean, unless you have the right rooms, the right conditions, it's really hard to tell the resolution difference. But if we're going to do this, and we're going to spend the money on this, let's skip that step and let's go to turning our phone into a player, our phone into a remote control instead of a player. Because if you think about this, if I get in my BMW and I connect my phone via Bluetooth, even if you have a new BMW and it shows all of your information on the display, the player is your phone. What we want in our garage is we want our phone to be the remote control. And that's when you start talking about Spotify Connect, Tidal Connect. You're using Bluesound or BlueOS and you're playing Tidal through that. What happens then is your phone just becomes the interface, the remote control, and then the player is on board here in the box, in the black box, or in the Bluesound node that I have over here. So this is a classic example. This does nothing else. This doesn't have an amplifier or anything. So this is a processor, and it has like Burr Brown DACs, that digital analog converters in here, I think. And this has a pretty sophisticated processor inside of it. And so this little black box in here, this Bluesound node, becomes your streamer. And so now my phone is connecting to that. That's doing all the heavy lifting, and my phone's just telling it what to do. It's just like a remote control. That's what we want. That's how you can get 24-bit, 192 kilohertz, high-res audio right off of your phone, right through streaming services for 10, 20 bucks a month, and then I can get the highest quality audio. Because it's simple now to do, we might as well utilize that instead of just connecting with Bluetooth, unless we're trying to save money or space, or we don't have places to plug things in. So in most instances with audio in the garage or anywhere, and you can apply this to anywhere. You can apply it to your office, you can apply it to your home theater, all this stuff. Same concept. And so I'm hoping that you'll buy that stuff from me as well, and we'll get into the home stuff, and we'll get into distributed audio, and we'll get into other things. But the garage is my sanctuary, and so this is where I'm starting out. And I'll start working through other solutions shortly. And for those of you who are new here, or you don't know my background, and you're asking what business does this guy have messing with audio, I do have an electrical engineering degree with we spend a lot of time on electronics, and most of my electives I took. I don't get a lot of electives, but inside of the engineering curriculum at Villanova, I actually petitioned the school because they did away with. I finally got to my senior year, and there's a course called audio engineering, and then they canceled the audio engineering course. So I got a bunch of people together and got the course back, and so I've taken courses in like digital signal processing, audio engineering, acoustic engineering, things like that inside of the electrical space, which I've forgotten all of that. But I applied some of that base knowledge and understanding of signals and quality, we spent, is it the Smith chart that like they use for cell phone transmission to decide where the safe areas are. I think that's what it was. But this is 20 years ago, and I haven't applied that for years. But when I was at Villanova, was super into electronics, and I wanted to buy all this stuff, and that's when I got a job at Bryn Mawr Stereo in King of Prussia, PA, just outside Villanova on Concord Pike, and really immersed myself into learning about all the features and specs and learning the slew rates of amplifiers, and I really prided myself on having in my head all of the model numbers for products we sold and didn't sell. And so what I should have done when I graduated college, I should have gone out and started my own electronics or my own AV business, and I probably would have sold it for $200 million by now. But I didn't know what business was. I thought I was a good employee, and then that's when I eventually ended up at Merrill Lynch. And so it's come full circle. I actually own ObsessedHomeTheater.com, so I own that URL, so maybe someday we'll get into it. But for now, the garage is the place that I listen to music second most. First most is in a car. But the garage is the place that I love having audio. And so my background is in all this stuff. So I sold and designed home theaters for 5 years, from 2000 to 2005, and I say 99 to 2005, and starting in car stereo and working my way into selling home theater stuff, all the way into working and doing distributed audio, selling Crestron. Actually interviewed with Crestron. They didn't hire me because I was too young, but I interviewed with them, trying to get a job there. This would have been in 2003, 2004. And so now we're full circle playing with audio. And so one of my skill sets, one of the things that really interests me is signal flow. How does the audio get from one component to the next? It's just innately wired, and so some of you that are nodding your head, yeah, I understand that too. You have to remember that most people aren't like you. Most people don't understand how to connect things and how to get audio from one device to the next and how it logically connects. Now, a system like this is rather simple. That's what's so cool about doing some sort of digital analog converter, some sort of streamer, if you will, is that I have a black box, I plug in the wall, and I connect some speaker wires to it. And chances are, if I'm just listening to music, I don't need anything else because my phone's going to control everything. And so I don't need a CD player, I don't need a record player, I don't need I guess I should call it a turntable. I don't need a turntable. I don't need any other outside devices, especially now that we can connect to these native and get things like MQA, or right now there's no real way to play Apple lossless. So if you're excited about the new Apple lossless platform, I don't know of a player without doing some sort of USB Lightning conversion connection to do it wirelessly. And so right now, my preference is to do it through Tidal. Use Tidal Connect. I haven't found a song yet that I wanted to listen to that wasn't available on Tidal, Tidal. So that's how I'm connecting those things. But I've spent, all in high school, I would sit there, draw out little diagrams, and so I've been drawing out little diagrams. This is my studio monitor setup. We'll talk about a little bit here today on how to make a studio monitor, which is a self-powered speaker without any kind of Bluetooth or internal circuitry. How do I make that work in an environment like this in the garage? How do we set that up? And then how do we take it from just connecting with Bluetooth, which is the way I have it connected now, and how do I make the connection from RCA to XLR, because they generally have XLR connections, which is a 3-pin grounded connection. So, and I'm sure most of you could figure this out, but why not just let me do it, and then you get to help me out by buying the stuff from me, and I'm going to give you some ideas maybe you didn't consider, and then you set up your garage and you decide how much money you want to spend, and then the sky's the limit. We can spend 25 grand on some speakers in the garage. We could spend 300 bucks and call it a day. And I'm going to tell you what I think about all those different options as time goes on. So what I'm playing with here today is, I've been jumping around all over the place, is a NAD. It's Bluesound equipped. So think, those of you who understand Sonos, Bluesound will be a competitor to Sonos and a much better company, much better interface, much better audio quality. I'm not a big fan of the Bluesound speakers. I actually have them all upstairs. I bought every one of them. I'm waiting on their sound bar to see how that is. Their subwoofer's terrible, so their speakers are just like Sonos. They're terrible. But their interface devices like the Node and the Power Node, the one I've just set aside, are insane. And then their app is the best, I think, even though it's still kind of clunky. I think their app is the best app. I think it's better than Sonos. I had Sonos in my last house. I know it's better than Sonos. It's more intuitive. It's easy to understand. It works better. It works all the time. It's a better interface. And then the key to the BlueOS platform, the Bluesound app, BlueOS is you can play native high-res files through it, specifically through Tidal, but you can do Qobuz and you can do some other, you can play Spotify Connect and all those things and get the maximum out of those. But it's as of right now, the best software. The only disadvantage, again, right now is there's no real connectivity with Apple high-res stuff, at least nothing that I can determine or find yet. So today I'm playing with passive speakers. These are PSB, what are these? These are the P5s. So these are the Alpha P5s. Here's the box. And I only ordered these because Lenmark is the distributor for NAD, Bluesound, and they also do Dolly speakers, which I've yet to get a bunch of those because Dynaudio is my beloved high-end speaker, which I've been talking about forever. Dynaudio in my Civic and Dynaudio in my first Civic way back in the day. So if I ever do any car audio stuff, I love Dynaudio speakers. But they have Dolly, and then PSB is their lower end line. And I've known about Paul Barton is the guy. That's Paul S. Barton, and he is, from what I understand, this is to quote let's quote my friend Lee from Absolute Sound, the Absolute Sound magazine. He is like, what did he say? What was his quote? He is like the Wilson Audio of the low end, if you will. So he has the mind. He's regarded as a audio engineer and a speaker manufacturer, speaker mind. But he's doing it in the low end, low cost. Let's not even call it low end because these, I'm telling you, are freaking insane. But in the lower cost realm, and I had my sights set on SVS, and had been attempting to convince them to let me sell the stuff because that's the other thing is nobody really wants me to sell into this stuff. They're like, what are you talking about? The garage? What does this have to do with anything? In fact, the company that represents ISO Acoustics told me to freaking get lost. I bet you they come back around at some point when I'm selling freaking millions of dollars of the speakers. But I'm after SVS because I thought that would become my entry level speaker, and because I became an NAD dealer, which I was really interested in, and I was extremely interested in Bluesound because I wanted this to be our interface because I think this is the best interface, simplest interface. Maybe is it NAIM is another good, but they don't have the robust application. They don't have the software background, the software ability that Bluesound does. So I think Bluesound is the company. And so to get set up with them, I pitched Mike, who's the representative for the Southeast for them, and then he pitched. He came here and visited. I just told him what I was talking about. I shared my background. Here's what I'd like to do, because these companies don't let anybody in. It took forever to convince Dynaudio as well, and so I convinced them to let me sell Bluesound, which then opened up NAD, which I was really interested in because of their amplifier technology. We'll talk about that a bit. But they also represent PSB. I'm like, well, maybe they could be an option. SVS isn't really giving me the time of day, or they're not saying yes. And so I leveraged my Villanova connections from talking to Ken and SVS. Great people, great company. They haven't approved me, so I think maybe they're waiting to see what happens with this before they say yes. The problem is their waiting made me look elsewhere, and so I ordered 3 or 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8 different pairs of PSB speakers, including all their subwoofers. Not in love with the subwoofers yet. I need to play with them a little more. And I opened these up. So I got this box. Actually, I did the first one I did was the AM5s. I did these over here, which I'll show you in a minute what the AM5s are. Probably be in more like an hour, the way that I'm going here in this video. But these are the AM5s. That's the first box I opened up. And I took this thing, so look at this thing. Let me pull this off here. And I got it. And I'm getting ready to listen to it, but I opened the box. And I'm like, what is this garbage? This speaker weighs 6 pounds, 8 pounds, something like that. And it's vinyl wrapped. Nicely vinyl wrapped. Actually, let me tell you, not nicely vinyl wrapped. It's like a vinyl finish, plasticky feeling, probably just a textured plastic front. It's an aluminum dome tweeter, which I hate. I just don't, especially in the garage. But it has, the thing that was intriguing to me is that, this guy is highly regarded as a speaker genius. And everything you see on these, I don't take much stock in reviewers very much. I'm looking for more people to share their experience. But everything I could find on these things was like rave review. This is a $450 pair of speakers. It's 450 bucks, which in the world of speakers is like 2 nickels, right? Nothing, like peanuts. The speaker next to it, these are, this is a Evoke 10, what are these, 12, 1,400 bucks a pair, something like that. This is $450, $225 a piece. But I opened the box, I'm like, oh Lord, it's just junk. Look at this, it's just freaking cheap. Feels cheap, looks cheap. It doesn't look cheap from far away, but it looks cheap when you're opening it up and you're judging it as you're opening up the box. It's packaged okay. It came in with a styrofoam and stuff, and packaged okay, and they were wrapped up kind of nice, nice enough in cellophane. But Dynaudio comes with like a fabric sleeve and the tweeter cover and all this stuff and these fancy grills. And then you see the grills on these things, and you're like, what the heck? It's a magnet, sort of like just a piece of screen metal that just kind of sticks to the front. And you have to, it doesn't, like the Dynaudio, you can't mess up. It only goes on one way. This one, you could have it wonky like this. So I'm judging these things, thinking, what the heck? This is junk. No freaking way. And then I turned them on. And I was like, holy crap. I'm telling you. Now, I don't want to play this up too much, because I don't want you to be disappointed. I mean, it still is a $400 speaker. It's a little baby speaker. It's not some giant, 8-foot tall floor standing speaker with some massive subwoofer. I still think you'll want these with a sub of some sort. But these are, 450 bucks a pair. We could do it with some inexpensive little amplifier. I'm waiting on my power node to come from Bluesound, which is like 750 bucks. And so for $1,000-ish, 1,100 bucks to do a pair of these, you could add a subwoofer later if you wanted to. You got yourself a freaking killer little 2-channel bookshelf speaker setup that's just incredible. And this is the Alpha series. They also have the Imagine series, which is a little bit more expensive, $600 a pair. Of bookshelves. I have those upstairs, but I don't like them as much. These are much, much better sounding, I think, at 450 bucks a pair. They also have the P3s, which are like 300 bucks a pair. They're these tiny little pea shooters. But these are like the active pressure washer has like the same output and the same capability as a Krensla, but it's 200 bucks. Well, this is like the active pressure washer. This is the Krensla. You want the Krensla, and actually you want the Evoke 20s, or you want the Krensla, which would be some sort of, you know, studio monitor like the LYDs. I think we're going to sell tons and tons of these LYD setups like this. I'll show you in a minute. So that's the Krensla. This is the active, and you're going to get every bit of performance in a little cheapish, inexpensive little enclosure with tiny little drivers, and it's backwards, and it's just freaking awesome. I'll play it in a minute here. Which is kind of stupid to play it over camera on the camera, but these things are freaking fantastic. And another positive note on my on our open house event, I've been looking for cables. You know, there's no more Monster cable. I don't know, maybe someone could make in the comments. What happened to Monster cable? I don't even know. Did Noel Lee die and then the company just went out of business, or what the heck happened? Did they sell it to, they sold their headphone tech to Apple? Did the Apple, I don't know what happened to the Monster cable. Is there, I don't think there's Monster cable at all anymore. I should know that. But the guys from Metra, so Metra makes, all you car audio guys, Metra makes harnesses for head units and trim ring kits. So we all used for years and doing car audio stuff. That's their bread and butter. They're here in Daytona. So two of their guys are OG fans. So Austin and his buddy came over. They're actually reps for different parts of the country, but they came to pitch me and drop off some cables. They just dropped off these Velux speaker cables to me to show me, you know, what they do. And you know, cabling is one of those things that we kind of got sold a bunch of snake oil back in the day. But you know, there is a difference in the number of you know, the number of strands in the wire and quality of the wire. I'm sure you could sit down. I've heard it personally. You can hear a difference between a, you know, I don't know if you can hear a difference between a high gauge, you know, old Monster cable like M2.2 and a Kimber, you know, $5,000 terminated masterpiece. I don't know that you could hear much of a difference there, but you can certainly hear a difference between lamp cord and like a really good quality interconnect. But you got to draw the line somewhere, especially with what we're doing in the garage, because we have a crappy environment anyway. We got metal cabinets and, you know, and metal hoods open, and, you know, plastic flooring that's shooting waves, standing waves all over the place. And usually your dimensions are kind of funky, and so it's not a good environment to begin with. But I don't want to have junk. And so I'm not particularly interested in having, you know, $600, $700, $800 speaker wires and things like that. But for most people, they're probably just going to buy some in-wall rated wire and we'll cut it. But these guys, I mean, like this Velux speaker wire is actually fairly freaking nice. Now this is probably a $200 or $300 pair of speaker wires. Just because of all the work that they're doing with how they're terminating it and how nice and neat and clean with the banana connections. So for me in my system, I'm going to buy something of this level. This is not Kimber. This is not Tributaries. This is not some high-end fantastic cable, but it's good. It's really, really good quality, and the fit and finish is really, really nice. And they're going to be able to provide me with our XLR connections. They're going to provide me with, for our studio monitors, providing me with like speaker binding posts that you could put on the wall or in your cabinet, so you could pre-wire things, set it up. HDMI we'll need for our HDMI ARC audio return channel and things like that. And so we're going to need a full line of wires. I've also got set up with Monoprice, because Monoprice has a few cables that they're the only ones in the world that make them. Like for instance, on the Bluesound Node, if I want to convert, the Bluesound Node only has RCA output. And so this is a bit problematic in that now these LYDs have RCA ins, but the core stuff doesn't have an RCA connection. And so the back of the Bluesound Node is RCA only, it doesn't have XLR outputs. And so for those of you who are asking me or thinking, what the heck's XLR, what's RCA? So this is RCA, you know, we all know what RCA is, right? It's an RCA connection. and this is an XLR connection. It's a 3-pin grounded connection. Now, as soon as we go RCA out, we're rendering the ground, the quality effects of a XLR eventually useless. So think least common denominator here. The lowest quality connection is the RCA, and so that's the highest quality that we're going to get. So we're not going to get the extra grounding capability of the XLR. But the problem is on core speakers and a lot of speakers, a lot of subwoofers that I'm going to be recommending, they don't have RCA in. And so all of the wireless subwoofer connections, transmitter receivers that we're going to be doing, so that way we can do our subwoofers wirelessly, they don't have XLR outputs. No one makes one. Can't find one. Doesn't exist. It took a while, but I eventually found a Bluetooth receiver for connecting Bluetooth that has XLR and TRS outputs. That's from Kali Digital or Kali Audio. But again, we want to get away from Bluetooth and go to doing this, setup with high-res audio. And so in order to get the connection made, I need this cable. And so Metra doesn't make this. And to get them to make it, I need a minimum of 2,500 or something, and I'm just not going to need that many. 2,500, maybe we'll see some success with this, but I doubt that I'll get anywhere near 2,500 in ever, let alone anytime soon. So it cost me $50,000 of these. When I can go to Monoprice, I set up Monoprice, I set up a corporate account, and so now we have these. I'm going to just order these and 50 to 100 at a time, and that's what we're going to need to connect to our studio monitor type speakers the best way possible. And so what I would do with that's just a little whip. They make a little 1.5 foot whip that is. And what I'll do is I'll get, then we're going to have Metra make us XLR cables, and I'm going to sell them in 1 meter, 2 meter, 4 meter, and 6 meter, which would be roughly 20 feet. And so the 6 meter cables is what we would be selling for large distance runs and things like that. Got some kind of spider in here. It's laying all kinds of web around. So the cabling situation, I don't think it would do me much good to create systems and then send you on a wild goose chase to try to put together the package. This was the issue with pressure washing in the old days when I first started doing this. I built obsessgarage.com to house all the links in one spot. And so I put all the links to the pressure washer, and it was 17 links all over the darn place, and it made it too complicated for people to get it. And so until I could get all the parts and pieces and provide an end-to-end solution with the pressure washer, I didn't do it. And I did it really fast. I did it in a month or so after my Amazon account got shut down. But tracking down all of the individual connections so I can sell you an end-to-end solution is key. And so same thing with cabling, and so I'm having to make some concessions and chase, Monoprice and Mogami are the only two companies on the planet that have on their site where it's available to purchase, and so those are the only two companies that I could find that I called Mogami. That's Geffen owns Mogami in the professional audio arena, and so I wanted to have them make all my XLR connections, but they can't get any stock of anything, so I couldn't convince them to open a new account yet, so I had to go elsewhere. Monoprice is the only other company that makes it. The quality's probably not as good, but we're already making this kind of funky connection anyway. We're not going to lose any high res. We're not going to end up with any buzzing or anything like that. I've been testing these for a year now. That's how I have my system set up. And so that's little things like that you don't think about that I'm going to solve for you, so you don't have to think about it. So then I can provide you a one-click solution. Hey, I want this system you're talking about. I want the NAD 368, C368. I want the PSB speakers. You'll choose your speaker wire length. And so I want to do just basic in-wall speaker wire that's $1 a foot or 80 cents a foot or 60 cents a foot. So I'm gonna do some 12 gauge speaker wire. We'll have banana plugs, we'll have wall plates, we'll have all the accessories that you'll need in order to do your own custom install 2-channel system. And then we'll have all videos and things support to show you how to set it up, how to connect your phone, how to wire it, how to then get the most out of it, how to set up the tuning and all that stuff. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about there. So let me show you what I've got going here. What I want to do here today for my own purposes is I want to compare I haven't had the PSBs. Oh yes, I have. I had it in my house. I haven't had it in this garage, this big wide open space. I had it in my smaller garage, which is, I want to get a good sense of what it's like in different environments. But the PSBs versus the Dynaudios. Now this is a, again, I was looking this up. So this is the 368. So they make M33, which is $5,000, M10, which is $2,750. Those are both interesting, and I have the M33 at my house. I have the M10 right here. I might bust this out. This is the M10. This is $2,750. These are both. What do they call it? What's the type of amplifier? A Purify Eigentakt. So the Purify, and they call it hybrid digital. So normally, like an amplifier in this, there's a toroidal transformer. This one may not have a toroidal transformer, but there's a transformer and there's capacitors. You have a typical Class A, Class B, Class C, or Class AB. I believe this is Class AB. I might be wrong, but I think this is a Class AB. And you can tell because it's not even running. I can feel the heat. But the really interesting thing outside of the amazing digital display, like if you see, this is the M33 here. This is the $5,000 version of this. The M10 and the M33. So M33 at $5,000, M10 at $2,750, which is nuts for the garage. I get that. I have it in my garage because I can. What wouldn't you if you were me? And then, so those have Dirac, and they have the Class D amplifier. And the Class D is a little weird. These, at first, the M33 and M10, right out of the box, if you just set it on here and played it, it sounds freaking terrible. It sounds weak, thin, not a lot of mid-end or bottom end. It sounds too bright. And so when I did the Dirac room calibration, which you download the software, you pay the $100 for it in order to get the full version of the software. I'll be showing you how to do that in the future. And then you put the microphone in the position and you do at least 5 positions, if not 25 positions in the room. It does a room correction for you. You then go back, you look at the curve and you make sure there aren't any major issues in the curve, or you have a huge dB delta that's too high, which could cause the speaker to bottom out or not play properly. And I'll show you how to do all that stuff real simply, real basically. And then the Class D amplifiers sound freaking great. But the M33 is 200 watts per channel Class D, 100 watts per channel in the M10 Class D. 1 second. Sorry, that was Michelle. She's got a real hankering for this fixer-upper lake house. We got to get out of our neighborhood. They're just killing us. Trying to make it nice. The Tesla Solar caused a whole buzz. We got attorneys coming after us. It's a freaking disaster. Just because they have this archaic, good old boys club that they just decide that when they want to, shake you down. It's freaking nuts. All right. So, as I was saying, you have the M33, M10, and then you have the 388. And the 388 is, I think, 150 watts per channel. So let me see here. But see, the M33 and the M10, the real advantage to them is they have Dirac. So they have the Dirac room correction, which I think could be really nice, especially if you get into the really nice stuff. Room correction in the garage can make a pretty significant difference, flattening out the frequency response, getting rid of some resonances and things like that. I guess it wouldn't be a resonant frequency, it would be a bright spots, if you will, to help overcome some of the disadvantages to that area. But an M33, M10 are really fancy. I don't know how many of those will do. They also have a C658, which does have DIRAC. This is a new thing for them, and it's a preamp only. And so what I think I'm going to do, I think when I do the garage next door, I think I'm going to do the C368 and attach that to my which is like a $1,600 preamp. I'm going to attach that to my Dynaudio Core 59s. That way I can do some direct room correction, flatten out the frequency response, do that with 2 core subwoofers, which I'll show you that in a little bit, and that's what I'm going to end up with in the garage next door. At my house right now I have Evoke 20s, which are the bigger version of these Dynaudio sitting here, and I have 2 Dynaudio. I have 2 they're sub 9s, which are dual 9-inch woofers, and I have that on either side of the garage. But again, as I was saying, the big mistake is it's 22 feet wide. I screwed that up. They need to be much closer. Should have done them on the wall or on top of the cabinets. I just like how speakers sound when they're sitting on the countertop. I just think it's a better spot. So yeah, the C658. So you can do, MQA through Blue OS. So the 658 has Blue OS and MQA. Yes, DIRAC. So that's what the C658 has. Now, there's the C2. Let's see. There's the C388, which I have coming. That one should be here soon. No DIRAC on that, but it does have Blue OS. So the C388 is the bigger version of the one you're looking at here. That one is 150 watts per channel, and I believe a Class AB amplifier. It might be some hybrid Class ABC, but I believe it's a Class AB amplifier. And the 388, and then the one you're looking at here, the 368. So the 368 has, and this is the newest version of it. So this has, Wi-Fi, just like the 388. This one has Apple AirPlay and all that kind of stuff as well. But the key is it has Blue OS, and so I have the Blue OS connectivity. There's a Blue OS module. So on the back of this thing, and this is what's so cool about NAD, and why I'm really interested in it, outside of the sort of cleanliness of them. So if you look at the back of this sucker, let me just unplug it. See this thing here? This is an MDC module. And so they shipped this one with the Bluesound MDC module. So this is an upgrade path. So the newest version, this is the newest version of it. This is the 2i version of the 368. This one is rated at, I think it's 80 watts. Yeah, 80 watts per channel at either 2 or 4 ohms. Put the speaker wires back in. But this one, what you could do, if you wanted to, for a couple $100, you can get an MDC module for HDMI, and then you could connect your TV to it, right? And so the way that I think it should be done, this is what I'm doing with the M33, is I'm putting the HDMI MDC module in my M33. I'd do the same thing in this if I were going to set this up with video. And I'm going to have Apple TV, because I don't like the OS. I don't like the operating system, the Android operating system on Sony's. I don't like the operating system on the LG displays. I like the LG operating system, WebOS, more than the Android-based Sony platform. Those are pretty much the only 2 TVs you would buy, or displays you would buy. And so I like using Apple TV because I'm so used to the interface. Everything's logged in. All of my accounts are all set up, and it's set up on multiple Apple TVs all over the place. And so I could use this integrated amplifier. I'm just doing 2.1, so I'm just doing 2-channel through my speakers, bring the speakers in closer to the display, and then you can run the Apple TV, you can run HDMI out of the Apple TV, and then back to the TV, and you're in good shape. So you don't need HDMI ARC, audio return channel, at all if you set it up that way. And I think that's the way to set it up. I think you're going to end up with best video quality via the Apple TV connectivity through a decent quality HDMI cable. And HDMI cables quality does make a difference. Don't give me that ones and zeros argument. If the ones and zeros don't make it there, you're going to end up with all kinds of handshake issues. You need a decent quality HDMI cable. But generally, if the HDMI cable works, it works. You're getting the same quality. So there's a quality difference. It's a thing where you're just trying to get. Sorry, Michelle's calling me again. She's really excited about this. What's up? Come and steal my camera here in a second. Michelle keeps bothering me. Well, I guess we're going to look at this house at 7 o'clock tonight. Anyway, I'll probably continue this video after the podcast, maybe tomorrow, and finish it up. But it's going to be a long one, just kind of working through some of this stuff. And like I said, just getting you to hang with me. So below the 368 is the 338, which I have sitting right there. The problem with the 338 is it doesn't have MDC module capability. So there's no way to do any kind of connectivity via HDMI. I don't know. Anyway, Mike's coming to get my camera, so I'll come back to you after the podcast. All right. After the podcast the other day, I kind of ran out of time, so we'll just keep fast talking through audio stuff here. And I didn't think I would like these just basic, integrated amplifiers, these DACs from NAD, but I just love how they sound. Now, I misspoke earlier. They're not Class AB. They're Class D as well. And so I don't think anything that NAD is Class AB. I hadn't really thought about it. I'd assumed that these were Class AB, and I ordered these, kind of breezed over the C388, 368, C338, the other one I have sitting over here. I assumed that they were all Class AB. But what I did notice, what you will notice if you were to compare this to like an M10, out of the box, there is no tuning capability. There's really no adjustment at all. You're just getting native. Whatever title sounds like, that's what you're getting. Whatever your speaker combo sounds like. We're not doing any frequency response tuning or anything like that. At least there's nothing you can do on this one. Same thing, 388. There's no Dirac, but both have the ability to. So 368, 388 both have the MDC slot. So we have an open slot available to do HDMI switching if you wanted to just get HDMI out of Apple TV, like I was saying. So I just love how these things sound, and they do run really, really cool. I ran this for like a few hours the other day at pretty high volumes, and you could feel a little bit of heat in the back left, but in comparison to a typical amplifier, makes a lot of sense that this is a Class D amp. And I wasn't sure if I was going to like that, but I just love how this sounds. So the big question, and I'm going to spend a lot more time doing and working on this. The big question is, do we do traditional? So this setup here, if you did this and a pair of PSBs, is $1,900 versus the setup over here with a Bluesound Node and a pair of LYD 8s is about $2,150. And so you're in the same price point, excluding some of the cables and stuff you need. So we're somewhere another $100 or so in cables, and of course you probably want to add a subwoofer, but you could do like for like, and same kind of subwoofer in both environments. I think we're in a similar price point, so I'm going to spend a lot of time. Let's play a little bit here today, and I'll give you my initial impressions. What I should do. Bit of a pain. Let's move our LYD8s over here. And I want to do some transitions. I also want to look up what is the. Let me pull up my sheet here on Dynaudio. I want to get the exact pricing on these Evoke 10s. The other thing I need to get emits here as well, which the new emit line, which replaces the Excite line, which I had. So I had Excite 10s, which are the previous generation, in my wash bay for a number of years with a JL E sub and E112, and it's freaking incredible. And it actually held up in my wash bay with no air conditioning and no climate control at all. And sometimes I come out of there and the walls were kind of wet, and they held up no problems out there. So emit 10s are going to be $800 a pair. Emit 20s, which I think are going to be great, are going to be $1,050 a pair. Evoke 10s are 16, so these are $1,600 a pair. So $1,600 versus $450. It's pretty significant. They're nearly 4 times the price. Evoke 20s, which is what I have in my garage, in my house, the Evoke 20s are $2,200 a pair. So this level of integrated amplifier, so I think Evoke 10s and 20s are probably going to suggest you spend the extra money. You get the 388, which is 150 watts per channel versus 80 watts per channel. And then Evoke 10s, like it just doesn't make sense that you do a, I don't know, I guess anything can make sense if you really think about it. So the hierarchy is going to go, let's get our 338 out as well. So the other thing I was doing a little research on is that Chromecast is audio via Wi-Fi, which is capped at 24-bit 96 kilohertz. So the difference between 96 and 192, you're probably not going to hear much of a difference, if any. And so this little guy, this little C338, is really interesting as well. Let's just put this one on top. Let's get the M10 out of the way. So what I'm going to spend a lot of time on, because audio we're going to have more choices than we will in, say, pressure washing in our store. So I'm going to spend a lot of time on discussing our options and working through what you can do. So I did spend quite a bit of time with this player, or this amplifier at my house. It's the first one I got, and then hopefully the 388 comes soon. I ordered these just in case. You know, I basically ordered one of everything that NAD makes, and I'm actually really, really pleased with them. I love how they sound. I love how cool they run, which would be great for the garage. I like how they look. And then, you know, it's a nice combination with a pair of speakers. Doesn't take up a lot of space in your cabinet. You could even put it on top of your cabinet if you wanted to. So you can see the size difference here. Now this one's quite a bit clunkier because you're doing over Wi-Fi via Chromecast. So you can't use the Bluesound app, the BlueOS app, and you can't upgrade this. There's no upgrade path to this one here. But this one, let's get the pricing. So this is $700, $1,450, and then the C388 NAD. Yeah, but that's not the right C388. C388 2i is $2,200. All right, so we're going to have 700 for 50 watts per channel. Now remember, because these are Class D, these are more sophisticated than a typical, plus NAD is always going to underrate output. But these are, a Class D amplifier has a lot more dynamic power output capability. And so you see this one there's not a lot going on here. So this would be audio only. You can do audio only. You don't mind using Chromecast, which you're going to see how clunky it is for me to set it up. Or I don't think it makes sense to buy a $700 integrated amplifier if you're going to be doing Bluetooth connectivity. So really you're going to buy this because you want the capability to do, you really want to be able to do a little bit better audio connection, and so Chromecast would get you there to some extent. But it just seems so old. Hopefully they'll come out with a 338 2i of some sort and put BlueOS in it. Would be important, I think. Take these little caps out. This one also doesn't have an AB speaker, so there's no ability to run an extra pair of speakers, which I wouldn't recommend. If you're going to start to run multiple pairs of speakers, let's do something different. Let's get multi-channel amplifiers and stuff like that. So I've got a set of cables here we can use. Before, I don't really mess with that. I don't know how much I'm going to mess with that here today. I want to switch. I want to use the 368, and I want to listen to the difference between the PSBs and the Dynaudios, just swapping back and forth. And unfortunately for this video, I'm going to have to use some duty copyright-free music. One of the disadvantages to when you're listening is that to get quality BlueOS, to get like MQA on title, so to get the best quality, the highest quality output, you would have to connect the phone via Wi-Fi. So you're connecting Wi-Fi, and the BlueOS app will walk you through it. And then it looks like this, where on my screen, so on the top here, I've got my C368. The nice thing about this is the handshaking back and forth. So there's a little arrow on here to transfer to the node black. So I got the node black over here. I will tell you that the node black, because the black is just leave on or leave on standby, it'll turn off and on its own. So the node, the interface between the node and your phone is much better than it is on this C368. This 368 turns off, it times out and turns off. You have to turn it back on. It's just not as instant. The node is always on standby, always ready to go. But the transfer and then the ability to add, there's a little plus sign here, so I can very easily add play the two at the same time. And so multi-zone capability with this wirelessly throughout your house is really, truly legit. I always had a clunky time with Sonos. I know some of you love Sonos, but Sonos is like the Sunjo pressure washer of the audio world. It's like Flexzilla hoses. It's the highly marketed, idiot-proof version. But even then, it's just not. I think Bluesound is a much better solution than Sonos. So then the nice thing is that Bluesound integrates with NAD. So if we want to get into the high end, we can use the NAD amplifiers and really do well. And like I said, the thing that interested me most about NAD was Class D and their higher end stuff. I thought the lower end stuff was regular Class AB. Well, now the lower end, like this C series stuff, is Class D as well. So I'm really psyched and even more enthused about doing some of these in some of our projects, some of our systems, and using it and creating options. So instead of using the Bluesound app, BlueOS, I'm going to have to connect the Bluetooth, which I am connected. And so then I'm going to go to YouTube here, and I'm just going to play some copyright-free music. I'd found one earlier that wasn't horrible. Let's see if I can find it again. So this is the PSBs with the C368 connected via Bluetooth. Bluetooth, it says here. It says I'm connected to Bluetooth. Speakers are just insane, man. I don't want to overblow it here and get you too excited, but if you know what good sounds like, for 450 bucks. Now granted, I have $300 speaker cables and a $1,500 integrated amp, but I can hook up the 338 for 700 bucks and it still rips. key. So the PSB is this cheap box. They have a aluminum dome tweeter, and so they shouldn't be this good. Like I can't explain to you. It's like I hate the fact that the active is so good. The active pressure washer is so good. I keep giving you pressure washer analogies, but you know, just this $450 pair of speakers. What I want to do here today, I haven't done this yet back to back in person, but we're gonna unbox the AM5s, which are the wireless. We'll end up having all kinds of Bluetooth handshake issues, but the wireless AM5s are essentially the same speaker as the P5s here, but they're self-powered. So I want to play with those and see how that does in comparison. But first, let's connect the Dynaudios here in a second. So in order for my volume to really work well, I'm going to come up higher. I'm going to go to 0. I'm going to 0 on my integrated amp. That way I have more volume headroom on this. Shouldn't be that good. Now what you'll find on the Bluesounds, the reason why I have the grills off, again, those grills tend to vibrate and tick and tap. So I think you take the grills off and just punt them. You can leave them on if you want, but I think if you get into higher volumes, the thing I think you're going to find with these, I mean, it's a little baby bookshelf speaker, so don't expect it to destroy the room. But I mean, this is a giant. This is 1,400 square feet, and this giant open with 16-foot ceilings at the peak, and it's filling up this room. I'm telling you. I don't want to like this. I bought these as just because I could, and man, it was freaking great. More than just a thrill, not just in it for the thrill. I'm in it for the love, God's love at least to touch it. You're pressing on my body, babe, let me tell you something. I'm in it for the love, God's love at least to touch it. You're pressing on my body, babe, let me. Okay, so now let me swap, just pause, swap over to the Dynaudio Evoke 10s that are 1,600 a pair. 450, 1,600, vinyl versus actual hardwood. You can see it in the port enclosure, you can see it quality on the binding posts. It's remarkably different, yet a lot of what you're paying for is the, I'll take the grill off just so you can see. Now also, you know, what's so fascinating, and part of the reason I'm doing this, stainless steel countertop. Sorry, you can't see me here. Stainless steel countertop, metal back, and yet, I'm telling you, it freaking sounds good. I can instantly hear there's a bigger sound stage. Now, they're a few inches wider, but it feels bigger, wider. Like there's more space, if you will. Open this. Pause that. Let me go back. This track, although a little douchey, is not terrible. So, yeah, I mean, this is so much smoother. I can tell that if I listen to these for like an hour straight at those volumes, bring the freaking camera back up here. So if I listen to the PSBs versus the Dynaudios, the Dynaudio is going to fatigue me a lot less. Actually, probably not fatigue me at all. That's why I love the Silk Dome, simple Silk Dome tweeter. But it's a lot harder, a lot more expensive to get a Silk Dome tweeter to work right than a aluminum dome. And so there's all kinds of cost-saving tricks that PSB is employing here. All right, so we'll go back to PSB. I'll give you my take. So I've already spent several hours messing with this kind of stuff. Dang, so good. So right here in this kind of snappy mid-range, low, low mid-range, high bass, little snare or whatever electronic crap they got going on here. The Dynaudio just feels, I don't know how to explain this. I'm not a good audio explainer. There's a much smoother crossover transition. So I feel like I'm getting full range, probably down to 40-ish hertz. 40, 50 hertz in these. But I feel like I'm getting a much smoother, I know I'm getting a much smoother sound, much smoother response from the Dynaudios. But again, we're nitpicking here at 4 times the price for a speaker that's about the same size. No question the Dynaudios, like if you came in here, if you were sitting here with me and listening to this, you'd say, oh yeah, I can hear a remarkable difference. But if you didn't have them back to back, you didn't have them back to back on a $1,500 amplifier, you'd probably not notice the difference. And you'd be pretty darn happy with, I'm telling you, with these PSBs. I'm buying the Dynaudios. I'm spending the money, but that's me. Please just say it's real. More than just a thrill, not just in it for the thrill. I'm in it for the ride. Got my release to touch it. Got pressing on my body. Babe, let me tell you something. Ugh, I hate this music. But see, the ferrofluid, the way that I think probably also the wave guide that they're using on this aluminum tweeter, this shouldn't be this good in a garage as bright as this room is, acoustically. It shouldn't be this good. It should be brighter and shrill. I have a pair of SVS Primes upstairs. I could get out if you want, but I can't even listen to them. They're just terrible in here. They're probably not terrible in a really warm room, but they're manufacturing bass and manufacturing high frequencies. These are not. They're just taking what's natural, taking what the amplifier's giving it. Even in Bluetooth, low res, we're probably, I don't know, like 16-bit. If we're lucky, we're CD quality here. No subwoofer. So imagine adding a sub. Wow. Listen to that whole scene again there on this Dynaudio. Make sure always, this is a tip, especially if you're playing with like I'm playing, make sure that you screw down your binding post when you're using banana plugs, because you'll get some tinny vibrating that'll drive you crazy, and you can't figure out when you think your speaker's blown. But what it is the binding post vibrating, especially at higher volumes, especially with the ports next to it in the back like these are. Make sure they're screwed down. Okay. Much smoother, but that rain in the background is much more detailed. much bigger. Like the whole thing just feels 10 times larger. Yeah, I think that the best way I can explain it, you know, I've spent a bunch of time, that word is escaping me at the moment, a ridiculous amount of time sitting listening to speakers in my life. You know, every downtime chance I could get from my, you know, early 20s, I would spend in the rooms listening to different speakers and listening to different tracks over and over and over and over again. But I wouldn't classify myself as a traditional, you know, two-channel purist audiophile because I don't have a room for that. I don't make time to listen to music. It's mainly when I'm interested in speakers and really hearing what the differences are. And I've spent probably 50 hours over time swapping out different cables to see if there was a difference. And that's a really hard thing for me to hear, a hard thing to hear. Differences using lamp cord up to $4,000 speaker wires. So I think as long as you don't have crappy wires, I think that you end up with, you know, with similar result. The thing I'm hearing here on these, I think it's probably just a better crossover. I think that we're getting a bigger sound stage and a better, more immersive experience from the Dynaudio, plus a smoother sound just because of the characteristics of the material differences. And probably the density of the baffle, the density of the box that the drivers are in, much more accurate mid-range, much more accurate, smoother high frequencies. But again, we have diminishing returns here. We're talking 4 times the price. I think that you buy the Dynaudio if you have the jack, but I think that you get the PSB if it's going to put you out. You know what I'm saying? The key for most of us is, I understand most of you aren't going to spend, you know, 10 grand in garage like I am on your speakers. You don't value it as much. You don't. Maybe it doesn't make sense. I've had, you know, I figured in my wash bay before I was even doing this stuff. I had, and in my garage previously, you know, I had like a $33,000 system or something like that in the garage. And then the wash bay, I had I had a $1,200 receiver. I had a $600 Monster Power Center. I had a $1,100 pair of bookshelves, another $1,000 center channel, and a $2,200, $2,000 subwoofer. So what was that? 5-6 grand, something like that, in my wash bay. So I think it just depends on what you value and how much you value it. Let's do this. So let's hook up the. I want to hook up the AM5 since the Dynaudios are fresh in my mind. And let's see what that sounds like. Gosh, this music is terrible. I gotta find something else. This could be like every other YouTube video where you just leave this annoying music in the background because you just think people are so stupid that they don't have the attention span to sit there and listen to you talk while I'm making a frickin' 2-hour video on speakers that nobody cares about because I care about it. So these are different. Let me turn this frickin' off. This is gonna drive me crazy. So again, these are the same speakers as the P5s. So it's the same driver, same tweeter, same box, with the exception of there's an amplifier. I wish that, I mean, you got a speaker. Why can't they put the frickin' box? Why can't they put the power inverter or whatever the heck this thing's called? The power supply, sorry. Why can't they put the darn power supply in the speaker box? Why do they got to separate this? So this ought to be long enough. Let me just attach this. So these speakers these are 600 a pair because they have their own amplifier. So this is a way for you to get the same sound I'm raving about. You're not going to get, I want to play them back to back, you know, playing it with a, you know, with a preamp or an amplifier, separate amplifier on the passive setup. I want to play them back to back just so I can give you an assessment. So they give you some speaker wire here. You get a remote control. We're going to need the remote control in order to set it up. But these come with a Class D amp, and let's see what the amplifier is rated at. Certainly not going to have as much output as this. Let's go to PSB. PSB speakers. These are called the Alpha Series AM5. There they are. Boom. So it's a 5.5-inch black steel polypropylene mid-bass driver. It's plastic. Nothing steel about that. And a 3/4-inch aluminum ferrofluid cooled tweeter with built-in Class D amplifier with 50 watts it's rated at. Let's go specifications. They play from 55 hertz to 20 kilohertz. Low frequency cutoff is at 36 hertz, minus 10 dB. So yeah, they're 50 watts times 2. So I don't think that's 50 watts per driver. I think it's 50 watts total. Whereas the Dynaudios, and what we'll have to do, we'll do some comparison of like Dynaudio Zeos versus these as well. Right now I'm just kind of playing, but I'll have more formal videos with these with very definitive buying guides, things like that, where I'll have Zeos, Zeo 10s, Zeo 20s, and we'll have them set up, and I'll do some listening tests, and I'll give you my immediate initial responses, and then it can help you make a decision on what you might want. But the key here is to have you with all the different connections that you're going to need, so you can just shows up in the mail and you just frickin' turn it on. That there. So these are the first speakers that I opened up from them, and I was like, oh my gosh, what is this junk? This is the black version. So this is the first speaker I opened up, and so you can see it's just black plastic. You're like, oh my gosh, what kind of junk is Matt telling me to get here? I think, yeah, let's put the feet on these so I don't jack it up. I didn't see these in the package the first time I did it. So let's put our little rubber feet on these, not scratch them up. I think this is vinyl wrapped. You can see the seam right down the middle here. So this one here, this is the slave speaker. This one doesn't have an amplifier. So these are different than Dynaudio in that the Dynaudio speakers, there's a processor speaker, but each speaker has their own amplifier built in. This one has a single amplifier in one speaker that's 2-channel that powers this one. So this one will sit over here, and we'll have to run a speaker wire from one to the next. And then you have the main speaker, this one. This one has the amplifier and the speaker binding post built in. So it's a little different than the Dynaudio way, where the Dynaudio is done by having amplifiers in each speaker, and actually the amplifiers are multi-channeled for each speaker. So you can see this one weighs twice as much, and it has the amplifier as well as the speaker binding posts on the side. And then I would suggest not using the crappy speaker wire that comes with it. We'll have some speaker wire options for you. So the disadvantage to this, it does have to plug into the wall somewhere, and you've got to run the speaker wire. So you may or may not be able to do that. But for $600 a pair to have a self-contained system, most of you, for your garage, this would be more than adequate. I just want to hear them next to each other back to back, which I haven't done yet. So this will be the first time I've done that. So I'm going to plug it in. power. You're gonna notice me struggling to get the Bluetooth to connect. So the initial Bluetooth connection is a little annoying, a little difficult. Let's take our grills off. So again, this does have an input. So it has a sub out, has optical in, has an auxiliary input, and then has a USB power thing. I think that USB power will probably just be your phone. And then there's a phono input as well, which again, who the heck is going to be hooking up a turntable, these cheapos, but maybe somebody might. And so let's connect speaker A to speaker B. I've got some of these old Blue Jeans cables that's sitting around. I think this is enough, yeah. Could be better. Better than using the lamp cord at this end. So these will accept the spade connector, that's cool. And hopefully I don't have too many Bluetooth handshaking issues where I can switch back and forth. God dang it. Spade connectors are never great for this kind of switching back and forth. Yeah, the binding posts on these aren't happy with trying to torque down spade connections. They tend to spin inside of there. I need to build like a testing rig. Okay, let's put our camera back in the spot. Let's give you a little closer look at these. You got a plastic vinyl enclosure versus a wood handmade in Denmark finish. And then you got the little powered speaker and you see the little light on the front. See your little tweeter wave guide there to help with some of the high frequency resonance, I'm sure, versus the 1-inch silk dome. So that's a 3/4 ferrofluid cooled aluminum speaker, and then a little closer look at the two NADs. Let's connect to Bluetooth here. Connected. Okay, nice and simple. So we want to make sure, and you'll be able to hear the difference. So there's a button on here, it's a sub, and it makes a big difference in how it outputs sound. Since we don't have a sub, we don't want the frequency adjustment that you would get from having a subwoofer. So mode, I want it in normal mode. So it gives you a bunch of different flashes. Normal mode is when it flashes no colors. So green, yellow, blue, no mode. So now I'm in just flat frequency mode. And then our treble, we want to go to the middle. Our bass, we want to go to the middle. That's the middle. Okay. So now let's go back to that one song again. So I like to set the speaker at maximum volume. You can tell because it flashes red. And then I have a little bit of control, and I have control via my phone's volume here. So this is Bluetooth only. You can't really connect any other way. You could set up like a Bluesound node and go with and get optical cable connection, but it kind of defeats the purpose of having a self-contained speaker. So I think you're fine having these and just listening to it on Bluetooth. This is maximum volume right here, which is pretty freaking loud, but You could really get away with this without a sub. I mean, a sub's gonna make the experience a lot better, but in your garage, especially if it's half the size of this. All right, let me try to switch to the P5s. Okay, cool. More volume capability by going to a, adding $1,500 to the package. So you have the ability to turn up a little louder, which I think the volume of the AM5s is plenty. It sounds much better. The high frequencies are much cleaner. The bass is much snappier and less boomy, but it's minimal. You would, again, one of those things you wouldn't know the difference unless you had them side by side and you sat here for half an hour and listened to it. I think the real reason to go to something more sophisticated, like doing the C368 or 388 with a pair of the speakers, is you want to connect a HDMI cable, so you can get the MDC module, and you're going to have a little bit more sophisticated system. But I think that having the ability to just plug in the wall and run a speaker wire behind your cabinets, throw a set of AM5s for $600 and you're freaking rolling. So we're definitely going to sell tons of these. Just a real simple system. You can use it as your computer speakers too, because it does have auxiliary in. You can just connect your headphone jack to the AM5s, run a speaker wire from left to right, and you got yourself a good set of computer speakers as well. I think they do really well for that. But what I do want to do is I'm going to bring some 20s, some ZO20s here, and I'm going to ZO10s, and I'm going to play the difference between those and the AM5s in the future, just so I can give you an assessment of what I think of high versus low. Let's simplify this here. So system A, option A, least expensive option, simplest option, Bluetooth connectivity, pair of speakers. So that would be AM5s from PSB, Dynaudio ZO, so $600 for these. ZOs for $1,500, ZO10s or ZO20s are $2,500 in bookshelf form. We can do floor standing stuff too later if you want that, but I don't think floor standing is going to be as practical in the garage. You can mount all these on a shelf. You could put them on top of the cabinet. You can put them on the countertop. You can mount them to. We'll have different speaker brackets, or you can mount it to the wall and all that stuff. And these, the advantage of this is plug into the wall, run a speaker wire across, connect Bluetooth to my phone. Disadvantage, I'm not getting any high-res audio. If I want high-res, I could buy a $550 node and attach it to my $600 speakers, which you could do. Go in optical, and you could get high-res audio from these. And then because there is a speaker wire, you'd get high-res stereo, all the way up to 24,192. So if you did ZOs operate wirelessly from speaker to speaker. So both of them plug into the wall. So where ZOs would be really popular is if you have power outlets, but you don't have any way to run speaker wires. So you plug it into the wall, you plug in a power outlet on each side. That's all you need. Connect via Bluetooth, and you have 24-bit 96 kilohertz connectivity back and forth, but it's Bluetooth. And so the way to go with ZOs, if you're going to spend $2,500, buy a node, connect it to it, and then you can do, connect it with optical, and you can do high-res audio. But the connectivity back to the speakers is still going to be limited to 96 kilohertz. Then setup B is going to be a traditional system where you have passive speakers like these, where there's no amplifier, and then I buy an amplifier of some sort, like a streaming DAC like this, and then I connect via Blue OS or Wi-Fi, and I'm connecting high-res. Remember we talked about earlier using your phone as the remote control rather than the player. When I'm connecting to these speakers, my phone is my player, and so I'm limited in quality that way because Bluetooth is limited. Whereas if I go with this black box of sorts, or I go with one of the gray Master Series collections, some of the high-end stuff, that box becomes my player, and the phone becomes remote control. So that's setup B, both of which will have the option for subwoofer connectivity. And that's where the Zeo gets complicated. That's why I don't think the Zeo is going to be as popular. The Zeo is really impossible to get a subwoofer connected to it. It doesn't have a sub out. These have a subwoofer output. Much simpler, much more basic. I just plug subwoofer in via, and I'll have wireless subwoofer controllers for you from OSD Audio, and you plug it in. There's a subwoofer output on the back of this thing, and I just strap that little box to the back of this, strap the little box to the back of my subwoofer somewhere else in the garage, and I've got, you know, a subwoofer connectivity on the output of this. I press the sub button. It changes the crossover on this. Diverts some of the low frequencies or most of the low frequencies of the subwoofer, and you have a nice little seamless little system whereas the Dynaudio Zeo really doesn't connect to a sub. Their Zeo Link doesn't really work. These subwoofers easy because this box has a subwoofer output, and we set that up same way with a wireless sub transmitter receiver. I think doing wireless in the sub, latency's low on these things, the quality is high, the distortion's low, and it's bass. It's harder to discern distortion in a subwoofer than it is in a in a tweeter. So not too big of a deal. So option C is studio monitor, like LYD8s, LYD7s, LYD48s. I have some LYD48s up here, which is what I had in my garage here forever. So before I even decided to start selling audio. So those are 48s. That's a Dynaudio Music. So actually option A part 2 was to do a speaker like the Dynaudio Music up there we talked about earlier. And so, or you can do something really high end like the Cores. That's the Core 59 on the right. That's the Core 47 on the left, and the Core 7 on the extreme left. And then that's the Core subwoofer right there. So what I was planning to do, and so when you do studio monitors, so studio monitors are like these wireless, so-called wireless speakers on steroids. So studio monitors are self-powered, but with much better amplifiers than a cheap speaker like the AM5s. So these guys have a Class D multi-channel amplifier in each box. The Cores have a super powerful Class D amplifier. It's like 500 watts for the mid ranges and 250 watts for the tweeters. These are like 80 and 50 watts, power per channel. But each of these has their own amplifier. Each plug into the wall, and each need some sort of signal. So you got to get the signal to them. And so these where a Bluesound node would come in really handy. So that's what this is all about. And so Bluesound node is, I think, the most genius little box ever. This little guy is connected to these via XLR to RCA. Actually, RCA to XLR, because the node doesn't have XLR out. And that's where I started thinking, I love the sound of these NAD processors so much. I'm probably on my Core setup, I'm going to add this. So the Bluesound node is $550. I'm going to spend the extra $1,000, and I'm going to get the C658, which is the preamp only. And the nice thing about that is that I can do Dirac room correction, whereas the Bluesound node doesn't have Dirac Live. And so the other advantage is I don't have to do any conversion of the RCA to XLR, so I can get true XLR connectivity and the noise defeating advantages of XLR. And so on my Cores, I'm going to do that processor. So I'm going to order one of those, and then it'll operate via BlueOS just like this will. The difference is I'll be able to go XLR native, and I'll be able to do direct room correction with both subwoofer and my speakers to get seamless integration, have it correct for the room, and have a really smooth flat frequency response. Because if I'm going to have 2 Core subs, so that's $8,000, 2 Core 59s, which is another $6,000, so that's 14 plus a 6, so that's it's $14,000 in speakers that I could really utilize the extra room calibration, get the most out of them in the garage. So these guys, let's just listen to this real quickly with that same stuff. I'm in love with these LYD speakers. I'm telling you, phone connectivity, the interface, the Bluesound node, once you connect to it on your phone, it's freaking seamless. I think in my house, when I just build and design my house, I'm just going to do Bluesound everywhere and skip the, I'll run network cables to them. So let's go here. Ooh, what I can do, I didn't realize this from YouTube, I could go AirPlay, which would be a little higher quality. So let's go node black, connected just like that. It has really great handshake connectivity. Let's play these. So 8-inch mid-bass bass driver, 1-inch tweeter. Very similar to what's in the Evoke. Tons and tons and tons of volume headroom. Like I couldn't play these as loud as they could go, or these I was pretty much, you know, hitting peak levels. So a lot more output. So if you have a bigger area, put these with some sort of subwoofer, like a sub 18S, like I have in my garage in my house. But these are, let me just confirm this. I think these are 1,600 a pair. They also make a 7-inch version of this, a little smaller footprint. Yeah, LYD8s are, no, these are 800 bucks a piece. They list for 1,000 bucks a piece. They're 800 bucks, so 1,600 bucks a pair. I would highly consider, if you have the space, you go to, let's see. Well, I guess that's another 500 bucks, more than that. It's 2,300 bucks a pair for LYD 48s. So these have a lot more low end than these speakers over here. Now these, I will tell you, it seems the higher end the speaker, the more break-in time you need, right? And so these I've only have maybe 5 hours on. You need to get 100, 200 hours. These will open up, smooth out. I have these set to dark, so the crossover set where it's a 1.5 dB increase in the low end and decrease on the high end. But you know, these are near field monitors. These are monitors that are designed for you to listen to closely, like when you're sitting on a mixing stand or a mixing desk where you have the speakers like right in your face. It's, for whatever reason, I'm telling you, in the garage, it just works so great. So I think most of my recommendations are going to be this setup. You can connect the TV to it via just an HDMI ARC. What you can't do with a Node, and what you can't do with most of these simple setups, you can't run like an Apple TV with it. You'd have to use the operating system on your TV to come to this, because there's no HDMI switching. You can't run in and then out. What you could do technically, you could run into your TV. So you could run, I guess you could run an Apple TV to the display, and then run optical out or run HDMI out, you know, and have the audio pass through. But you couldn't. You'd have to make sure you ran multiple HDMI cables. Where I made a mistake in my garage, I ran 2 HDMI cables. They're both directional, but I didn't run them this way. They're both going in the same direction, so I can't get ARC the audio return channel back to my receiver. And so that's where on the M33, the really high-end version that has all the same operating system as this, the M33 integrated amp, that one I'm going to put the NDC module in it, which gives me 3 HDMI ins and 1 out. And so I can run Apple TV in and then use one of those cables that runs back to the display, and then just not use the operating system on the Sony that I have there. These are also a little narrow. I'd want them a little wider. So good. Oh, man. So much louder. I couldn't figure this out when I had my LED 48s up here that I bought, a couple years ago, and then I got the Core 47s, put them next to them. Like, oh man, these cores sound terrible. Well, they need to open up. My LEDs were broken in, it's smooth as silk, and then the new speakers are a little harsher, and then they really open up. So like a song like this will sound way better if I got the LED 48s out that I've had, that are broken in. It would sound remarkably better. Yeah, this is fun, man. I like doing this. But see, here's the beauty of this. After I spend, I'm spending a little bit of time on camera with you again. So if we've spent a couple hours here together, multiply that by 25. I've been playing these in all different environments, in my garage, in my house, the garage here. And so that way I can put, put an assessment together. I've of course had to make a choice. I've had to make a decision. Where am I going to start? You got to start somewhere. And so I'm starting with shopping online, figuring out what speakers do I want. Of course, I have implicit biases that that I have from these years and years and years, if not decades, of listening to speakers, and then spending a lot of time in the garage, really having a solid understanding what I think is going to sound good. So I'm off to a good start before even buying the speakers, and now I'm just confirming what it is I've thought. Found some surprises like these PSBs, and then just keep chasing from there, and then start playing with, NAD was a pleasant surprise for me. I wanted to just get Yamaha, and when Yamaha basically said no, or they just never called me back. The representative did. It forced me to go look elsewhere. I was thinking of Audio Solutions, but Audio Solutions doesn't have Blue OS. And so they don't have the operating system advantage that Bluesound and NAD have. And so the partnership there is pretty fantastic. And I wasn't sure about Class D amplifiers because I'm an old school Class AB guy, and you can really get some freaking quality sound out of these things. They sound fantastic. The one thing that was a little concerning was the two high-end pieces, the two Master Collection M10, M33, I thought sounded terrible. Out of the box they did, but that once I did the room correction, they sounded frickin' even better than the black ones here, like the 3 Series stuff. So the next step for me is to get this stuff in stock if you want it, have to have it right now, I can get you, piece together a system. So if you're following along here and you're saying, Matt, just tell me what to get in the garage, email me, I'll deal with you directly. I haven't taught my guys yet any of this stuff. This is part of the reason why I offload and train other people so that I can go chase the next thing. And the next thing for me is audio in the garage. Because of my background, I can help you with audio in the house too. That's going to be, I'm hoping, the innocent byproduct of me spending all this time and money on this is that I can help people with their distributed audio in their house, or if we're doing a large garage, that it can justify me getting more and more of this stuff in stock in the store and available on the shelf, so we can constantly be supplying. So for a little while, we'll be special ordering stuff for people, and then getting to having full systems. And I think that we're going to sell tons and tons of this PSB stuff, because anyone can swing, get for a holiday, birthday or something, get yourself a set of AM5s, or we'll get P5s and get you a C338 or something like that. Or you can use the P5s with your current receiver and then upgrade it later. Or the other thing that's going to be, I think, really popular is the Bluesound Node is $750. The Power Node is $750. I'm waiting on mine. I want to try it with these P5s and see what that sounds like. I'm interested in what the Power Node can sound like with Dynaudios. And then we'll have all kinds of little ancillary things, like if you're doing something where you have a lot of humidity, or you're washing in an area, or outdoors in your wash bay. We have OW8s. I actually have those already in stock. We have in-sealing stuff, so custom install stuff as well. And so there are going to be all kinds of options in between. So anyway, I know I talk real fast when I get excited about this stuff, but keep an eye out. And again, shoot me an email if you have questions, if you made it this far. And just bear with me. Those of you who are naysaying and second guessing what I'm doing here, I'm telling you, this confirms it. Me spending all this time with this. I knew I was right from the beginning, and that audio in the garage can be a really enjoyable experience. We're not talking about, I know to some of you, talking about a $10,000 or $6,000 pair of speakers. In the world of speakers, that's nothing. You can spend an infinite amount of money on speakers. And I know that we're going to sell few and far between $6,000, $10,000 systems. We'll do some. But I know that we're going to sell a frickin' zillion of the simpler systems when I vet it, test it. I'm sharing with you all these countless hours of me sitting in front of speakers. This is what Obsessed Garage has been about, and why I figured out why there is value to you watching, is that all of this time spent, all of this money spent, all of the mistakes I've made, as well as just pure passion and obsession over this kind of stuff. I think that the vast majority of people are going to get a set of speakers that I suggested, and it'll confirm and say, "Yep, you were right. These are pretty great." As long as you have reasonable, intelligent expectations. So thanks for hanging out with me in the garage. I'll keep you updated. I'll do some more audio hangs, with you. I do want to do some studio monitor testing and compiling it up. What I'll do is set the camera up more often than I have been the last few months. And I want to play all the studio monitors back to back to back to back. I'm going to set up here, make a big mess, connect them all up, and say, okay, here's all the way down from the little guys all the way up to the big expensive guys. Here's the price point differences. Here's what I'm hearing, the differences between the two. Here's what my recommendation would be, and we'll have that value. Same thing with our bookshelves. I'll have our PSBs, our emits, our evokes, have all 5 of them, sitting right next to each other, and compare A, B, C, D, E, F. Here's the difference, and then do the same thing with our wireless speaker options. Here's A, B, C, and then the indoor, outdoor, in-wall stuff would be more custom. Those you'll have to kind of take my word for it. So anyway, thanks for watching, and hope this works. If not, I've spent well over $100,000 on speakers and audio equipment, and I guess worst case, I can have like a private sale and sell it all off and get my money back, or at least a percentage of money back. But we'll see. We'll see if I'm correct, if people actually do care about audio in the garage. It's a solution to a problem that most people didn't know they had. But my wager is that I know that if it's something I want, that others probably want it too, and that's been the thesis of this whole experiment. And my hypothesis continues to be proven right over and over again. So, worst case scenario, I've had the time of my life wasting all this money playing with this stuff. So much fun. So freaking much fun. I can't even explain to you. There's nothing that gets me more excited than when an NAD has been a lot of fun, because it hasn't all come on one pallet. It's come like trickles, like drips and drabs. So each time something shows up, I'm able to kind of play with it. Whereas Dynaudio, I got like a whole shipment in all at once. It was a bit overwhelming. So thanks for watching. As always, stay tuned for more crazy. This is up there. This ranks up there in the crazy department. But in the end, I think that we're going to have some cool solutions for you that you can, hopefully, you value and will choose us for your audio needs in the garage. See you soon.